Hello and welcome. We're going to be doing Chapter 3, Lesson 3 today. And after scanning the lesson, the thing we're going to be doing today is we will be multiplying decimals. And we will also annex zeros in the product. So we're going to check out the real world link. It says bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants. It can grow about 4 9/10 feet in height per day. It is a favorite food of panda bears. You can use repeated addition to find the total height a bamboo plant can grow over a number of days. Complete the table below. The first one is done for you. So we have number of days is 2 days, so we have to add it 4 9/10 twice and it equals 9 8/10. Or we can do 2 times 4 9/10 equals 9 8/10. So in 3 days, that means we're going to have this 3 times because it grows 4 9/10 every single day. After adding those, we get 14 7/10. Or we can put 3 times 4 9/10 equals 14 7/10. Now if we do it 4 times, it's going to be 19 6/10. If we do it 5 times, because of 5 days, we get 24 5/10. Number 4 says use the pattern in the table to predict 6 times 4 9/10. So it says checked by repeated addition. So go ahead and pause the video in order to use the pattern to find that out. So here's the answer, 29 4/10. There's a couple ways we can do the pattern. I can either do 6 times 5 equals 30, and then I can subtract 6/10. Or I can look at my previous answer of 24 5/10 and add 5 to that, but subtract 1/10. There's also many other different strategies to find that out. So we're going to look at number 5. It says look back at exercises 1 through 4. Compare the number of decimal places in each factor of the number of decimal places in the product. How do you determine the placement of the decimal point in a product? So I'm going to look at the multiplication part. So we have decimal points in the 4 9/10, and each of our products has one decimal point here. So go ahead and use this information to complete number 5. So I'm going to write down what I noticed. I noticed the factors. The factor 4 9/10 has one decimal place. And the product has one decimal place. And your answer can be different than mine, and it can still be correct. So just because we have different answers does not mean that yours is wrong. We're going to go actually into more detail with number 5 throughout the lesson. So we're going to move on to multiply decimals. It says using repeated addition can help you place the decimal point. The whole number represents the number of times decimals used as an addend. So place the decimal point in the product the same number of places from the right as the decimal factor. So number 4, it says 4 times 83 hundredths, for example 1. So this is one thing that I always do. So previously in the add and subtract, we had to line up the decimals, but that rule is only for adding and subtracting. I'm actually going to show my work on the side over here. So we have 83 hundredths times 4. Before I add the decimal place, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply this as if this was a whole number. So we have 4 times 3 equals 12. 4 times 8 equals 32 plus 1 equals 33. So now we have to decide, where's the decimal place going to go in our factor? If we look previously at the real world, we said there was one decimal place after one of the factors in 4.9 or 4 9/10. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to see that from this decimal right here, we have 2 numbers to the right of that decimal. And since we have 2 digits to the right of that decimal, I'm going to start at the end, and I'm going to create 2 loops. And I'm going to place my decimal right there. So I'm going to recap. 83 hundredths has 2 digits to the right of the decimal. So I'm going to go to my answer, and I'm going to create 2 loops from the end. I'm going to start from the end and go left and create my 2 loops to create my decimal point. So now I should have a decimal of 3 and 32 hundredths. So in example 2, we're going to do the same thing. It says find 3 times 14 and 2/10. So I'm going to take 14 and 2/10, and I'm going to multiply that by 3. So 3 times 2 equals 6, 3 times 4 equals 12, 3 times 1 equals 3, plus 1 equals 4. Now I'm going to look at my decimal right here, and how many digits are to the right of my decimal? To the right of my decimal. I have 1 digit to the right of my decimal, so I'm going to go to my answer, start at the end, and I'm going to move the decimal place once. And my decimal is just going to plant right there. So my decimal should be 42 and 6/10. That should be my product of 14 and 2/10 times 3. So we're going to go move on to example 3. This is 4 times 95 hundredths. So it says estimate. So we have 4. It's going to multiply by 1. So we're estimating this is going to be 4. And if we go to the right of the diagram, we have 4 groups of 95 hundredths. And then on the top we'll fill out our answer once we get there. So we're going to go back here. So we're going to multiply 4 times 5 equals 20. 4 times 9 equals 36, plus 2 equals 38. And 4, oh, never mind, I just put 38 over here. I don't know why that's there. So we have 38. And I'm going to look, it says 95 hundredths has 2 decimal places. So I'm going to place the decimal point 2 places from the right. So here's my decimal. I have 2 numbers to the right of it. So I'm going to go 2 places from the right and get my answer of 3 and 8/10. So is 3 and 8/10, is that close to 4? Yes, it is. So that's a good indication that the answer is correct. So go ahead and try the got it. So go ahead and pause the video and we'll get back to you shortly. Alright, so after doing the got it, I put the A up here for more space. So like we said, 25 hundredths has 2 decimal places to the right of the decimal. So I'm creating 2 loops in my answer. B, same thing. There's 2 numbers to the right of my decimal, so I have 2 loops to place my decimal. And C is the same thing, 2 decimal places to the right of the decimal, so my answer is 2 loops for the decimal. So go ahead and check your work and make sure yours is the same as mine. And we're going to move on to example 4. So annexing zeros in the product. If there's not enough decimal places in the product, you'll need to annex zeros to the left. To annex 0 means to place a 0 at the beginning or end of a decimal. So we're going to start off by doing example 4. So I know the work's already done for us, but I just like getting the extra practice in. So if we have 0, 1, 8, so it's 18 thousandths times 2. We can also just include that zeros because it's there. 2 times 8 equals 16. 2 times 1 equals 2. Plus 1 equals 3. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So we look at how many decimals do we have to the right of, or how many decimal places do we have to the right of the decimal. We have 1, 2, 3. So we're going to create 3 loops. And that's exactly where we're going to place my decimal and get 36 thousandths. We're going to double check our work by adding. 8 plus 8 equals 16. 1 plus 1 equals 3 plus 1. And then 0, 0 decimal. All right, so we're going to move on to example 5. This is 12 thousandths has 3 decimal places. And we are going to go ahead and multiply. 4 times 2 equals 8. 4 times 1 equals 1. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. So we are going to annex a 0 to make 3 decimal places. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to double check our work. That's going to be 8, 4, and we're annexing our zeros. So that was pretty simple. So go ahead and try the got it, D, E, and F, and continue the video when you're finished. Alright, sorry about that. Realized that did not pause. So we have 600th, we have 9600ths, and then we have 495 thousandths. So just make sure that we see that there's two decimal places. We have 2 loops. For D, for E, we have 2 decimal places with 2 loops. For F, we have 3 decimal places. We have 3 loops in our answer. And just because 11 is now in our tens column, the rule still applies. So we have 3 decimals to the right of the decimal place. We have 3 loops to find out where a decimal place goes. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to example 6. It says a batch of trail mix calls for 1 2/10 pounds of dry cereal. Niglia is making 5 batches of trail mix. She already has 2 2/10 pounds of cereal. How many more pounds of dry cereal does she need? Okay, so this is going to be a 2-step problem. Of course, all the work is already in front of us, but we need to make sure we know how to do this, so we're going to dissect it. So I'm going to kind of highlight my numbers. That way that kind of helps me organize a little bit. It says a batch of trail mix calls for 1 2/10 pounds of cereal. She's making 5 batches. So she already has 2 2/10 pounds of cereal. How many more pounds does she need? So the first thing we're going to do is we need to find out how many pounds of trail mix does she need in total. In order to do that, we're gonna multiply 1 2/10 times 5. because this is 1 pound right here. But we need, I'm sorry, this is 1 batch. 1 2/10 is 1 batch, and we need 5 batches. So we have 5 times 2 equals 10, 5 times 1 equals 5, plus 1 equals 6. And since there's 1 decimal here, we move that to get a decimal there. So we need 6 pounds. So we need 6 pounds, and we already have 2 2/10. So since we already have that, we're going to deduct that from our answer. And this is a review from previous adding and subtracting decimals. We're going to line up our decimal places. We're going to line up our place values. And we're going to subtract in order to solve this answer. So 8 and then 3. So we still need 3 8/10 pounds of dry cereal. But that is the end of the notes for Chapter 3, Lesson 3. Thank you for watching.